Hi golfers, Rob Cheney here from GOLFTEC Singapore. In today's video, we're going to discuss the most important topic in the golf swing, the wrists. It's a complex subject, but with the help of one of my favorite training aids, the hanger from Watson Golf, I'm going to share with you the complete guide to the wrists from the setup all the way through to the follow through. And if you stick around to the end of the video, you find out how you can not only get a discount on this item, but you could also win one for yourself. So it's been a little while since I did a wrist video, but one of my earlier videos on the wrist is my most watched video on my channel. This subject is clearly something that people enjoy learning about, understanding about, because it is such a key part to the swing. How the wrists work and move throughout the time and space of the swing controls the club face, which is responsible for the direction of your shot. And so much of this is also associated to how you can create power and speed in the swing. So I thought it was about time we revisited this subject. I'm going to go through it from setup to finish and give you some tips and tricks along the way to help you play better golf. So as mentioned in my intro, I'm going to use the hanger training aid from Watson Golf to help explain some of these wrist angles that can get quite complex. Like so many good training aids and the ones that I like to use, this is such a simple idea. I've done previous videos on it. It's very, very simple to use. Attach it to the grip, top end of your club, bottom end of the grip as well, and then you're going to use the rail or the metal bar that's at the top here is going to be a reference for where and how your arms and wrists move throughout the swing. As I say, very, very, very simple concept. If you haven't seen it before, I encourage you to go back and look at my earlier videos that discuss how to use the hanger. But once we've got this strapped onto the grip, we've now got this coat hanger, effectively, this bar sitting in between my forearms here. And the reason this is such a great training aid is it gives us some reference for how the club shaft is twisting throughout the swing. And that's a really difficult concept for a lot of people to get their head around, particularly new golfers who don't really have any idea about how this should all work. But even more experienced players who've developed such a strong pattern in their swing that they don't consider for 1 second that what they're doing is wrong. And when you move the club or you twist the shaft in a different direction, it feels so alien because it's so different for them. They don't realize that the club is twisting throughout the entirety of the swing. So as I say, I'm going to go through this piece by piece or step by step to give you some checkpoints at different parts throughout the swing. And I'm going to try and speak to you as to whether you're a slicer and what you might want to try and do more of, or if you're someone who hooks the ball more than you'd like to. Give you some thoughts on that, because really what we're trying to do here is teach you more club face control. Okay, so it's set up. We're going to discuss a couple of pieces. The grip matters, how you hold the club matters, and it will play a role in how you move your wrists throughout the swing. For the purposes of time and the fact that we don't have endless time for this video, I'm just going to assume we have a reasonably neutral grip, okay? And if you need to know what that looks like, you can check out my grip video that I made recently. I've got the hanger arranged here so that the bar is sitting between my forearms. And I would tell you at setup that if you were a slicer and you wanted to encourage the balls to fly straighter or even start to draw, you would put your hands more forwards and you would raise the club more up. They would be two adjustments that you could make to start to close the face of the club relative to the swing direction, which would reduce your slice or begin to increase the chances of you drawing the ball. So once again, if you're a slicer, you'd want to push the handle forward. That moves the hanger onto my left forearm. And as I raise the wrists up a little bit as well, the function of doing those two things is beginning to close the club face, which is great. It's what you want to do as a slicer. Probably won't surprise you, I'm going to tell you to do the opposite if you're someone who tends to hook the ball more. So you wouldn't want as much shaft lean, you'd want the shaft to be more neutral, okay? And you can choose also just to lower the handle a little bit, okay? Lowering the handle like you would do if you were going to hit more of a lob shot around the green or a bunker shot. The reason you lower the handle for that shot is because it starts to open the face or helps to open the face, keep the club face a little bit more open. So there's our checkpoints at setup. You're either going to go more forward and up, reduce your slice, or morph back and down if you want to reduce your hook. Into the backswing, and I think this is where the training aid really starts to come into its own. Moving the club back from P1 to P2, shaft parallel to the ground. So many amateurs by this early point in the swing have done irreversible damage with the way they move the club. And what I mean by that is as they move the club back, they are rolling the forearms and opening this club face. Now, if you were to do that with the hanger training aid on the club, what you'll get is the bar here will roll and rotate and start to touch your trail forearm, which would be incorrect. You can see how the club face there is pointing up towards the sky. If you watch enough golf instruction and watch enough videos on good players and how they take the club back, you'll notice that their club face will tend to look a little bit more down towards the ground. A nice checkpoint is that the leading edge of the club, which is the bottom edge here, sort of matches my inclination to the ground here, my spine angle, okay? And as I move back, the hanger gives me good feedback because I keep the bar of the hanger here on my lead forearm. And honestly, if you just did that throughout the entirety of the swing, you would improve your ball striking tenfold. Okay, this would absolutely transform the way you hit the ball if you learned just to keep this hanger on your lead forearm throughout the entire time and space of the swing. So backswing checkpoints, let's keep going. P2, hanger's touching the forearm, club face is pointing slightly down. As I start to hinge my wrists, it's important that I keep the hanger touching my lead forearm. So I'm hinging my wrist, you can see that from the face on camera, but I'm not doing it in such a way that opens the club face, which is so typical of most slicers. People trying to lengthen their swing by extending their lead wrist, getting into all sorts of problems with the arm structure as well. You can see here how the hanger no longer touches either of my forearms and my lead wrist has moved into this cupped or extended position. If I keep the hanger on the lead forearm as I hinge my wrists back, I'm getting the correct feedback here that I'm hinging them in the right way. There are different ways to hinge your wrists. When people talk about wrist hinge on the backswing, it's such a generic term. Okay, there's very little specifics around it. It's just hinge your wrists. The wrists are moving in multiple degrees of freedom. There's so much movement going on here in the wrists and the forearms. And it's very, very easy to hinge your wrists incorrectly. In fact, I'd say it's probably the biggest mistake high handicap golfers are making. They don't realize that in moving the club the way they are in the backswing, they're setting themselves up for so many problems in the downswing. So once again, keeping the hanger touching your lead forearm at P2 where the shaft is parallel to the ground, still touching my lead forearm at P3 when my left arm is parallel to the ground, and I'm beginning to hinge my wrists, and still touching my lead forearm at P4 gives me enormous positive feedback in terms of how the club face is positioned, and the structure this gives my arms and wrists at the top of the swing is such that I'm now very much set up for success at this point in time in the swing. It's certainly my teaching preference to teach good wrist angles for the majority of amateur golfers in the early backswing. I think if you get these wrist angles correct early, you have saved yourself a ton of drama and chaos on the downswing. And there are some examples where good golfers don't necessarily do it exactly as I described, but there aren't that many of them. And I would tell you that good golfers are elite athletes, very, very talented human beings who've hit thousands and thousands of golf balls and learned to make certain things work. For most of you watching this video, you haven't got that time, you haven't got that ability to time something that is very, very awkward and difficult to do. So my suggestion for the backswing, keep the hanger on the lead forearm, keep the hanger on the lead forearm, keep the hanger on the lead forearm. If you get to the top of the swing, show how that lead wrist and the forearm are pretty flat, and the club face angle at the top there matches that lead wrist and that lead arm. Okay, so we've made it to the top. Transition and downswing. This, for me, this first part of the downswing, the transition, the bit where the golfer now starts to pull on the club to create some power in the downstroke, is where most of the problems occur. I actually watch quite a few golfers who have a decent concept of the backswing. They understand that the club should sort of point slightly down at P2 towards the ground, and they have reasonably good wrist angles towards the top of the swing. But in transition, in the act of pulling the club and trying to put some force into the club to create some speed, they have learned incorrectly to pull this club down and start to extend or cup this lead wrist, which again moves this hanger away from my lead forearm. I've already said that if you learn one thing in this video and you understand how the wrists work, keeping this hanger in contact with the lead forearm throughout the entire time and space of the swing would be the one key takeaway. That applies just as much in the transition. So as you're coming down and moving the club back towards the ball, there is a twisting, there is a conscious, for some of you, twisting. It's unconscious for many of you lucky ones, but for those of you not doing so well, there should be a conscious twisting of the grip and the shaft to keep this hanger on your lead forearm. So that as you reach P6, where the shaft's parallel to the ground again, you can see how that club face is still just turned down towards the floor. That's a really good checkpoint. It's a really good checkpoint. So many of you who struggle have got this face looking up to the sky again. And the other great thing about this training aid is it's managing the amounts. Okay, so if you were a hooker of the ball who had the club face too closed here, you wouldn't be able to get into that position. It wouldn't allow you to move your wrist that far and the club that far closed. So it's giving you checkpoints that are keeping you neutral. We're not exaggerating things too much to make things too open or too closed. It's going to keep you right on track. Club face slightly closed as you approach the ball. So the downswing trick in the transition is to twist, physically twist, rotate the grip that you've got your hands on, put a twisting of your hands into the grip as you start to come down. That will keep the hanger on your lead forearm, and the feeling that you might liken that to is almost revving the throttle of a motorbike, turning or twisting your hands, twisting the throttle, moving the club head down towards P6 where it's just pointing slightly down to the ground. That gets us into this pre-delivery position, so now we can get into impact. So if you've followed along so far, you'll understand how the lead forearm, the hanger and the club face are all very closely related, and if you've managed to keep the hanger on the lead forearm moving into the impact, you're going to be about to deliver this club in a very efficient fashion. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to have a little bit of shaft lean, which for most of you is beneficial because it's going to help you to hit slightly down, make good contact, compress the ball, get that strike and get that ball speed. Things we talk about so many times when it comes to that first fundamental of contact. Conversely, you know, so many of you are hitting the ball with the club back like so, the elbows apart. Look where this hanger is now. You know, it's nowhere near my lead forearm. I'm adding loft. I'm swinging across the ball. I'm starting to hook and slice and hit all sorts of terrible shots. Keeping the hanger in contact with the lead forearm, leaning the shaft very, very slightly forwards as you hit the ball, and as you're hitting the ball and going through impact, this for me is one of the key messages or lessons that you could take away from today. I see too many people just trying to hold their hands in front of the club head for so long. And one of the things that you wouldn't necessarily know without being shown, I can keep my lead forearm on this hanger, but I can have the hand so far forward that this club face is not functional at all. It's so open. That would be a horrible shot to the right. What you need to learn to do is keep the hanger on the forearm, but also use some rotation of the forearms as you come through. Now as I hit the ball, I've not got this handle way in front of the club head. I've allowed the club shaft and the lead arm to line up, literally just after impact, and then the club head, with the speed of the club head, it's beginning to overtake my hand slightly. That's important. That's important for a number of you watching this video, because you do not swing fast enough as Dustin Johnson or Colin Morikawa, who've got these wonderfully beautiful looking wrist angles coming down and look like they've got this super long, wide follow through. It's fine if you're swinging at 110 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour with a 7-iron. If you're swinging at 70 or 80 miles an hour with your 7-iron, you're never going to get enough speed into the ball. You're not going to get enough of this club head speed into the ball, and you won't be able to hit the ball high enough or far enough. Two big problems I see with amateur golfers that I teach who don't have much speed. So I'm going to share with you that whilst at impact there is definitely a little bit of shaft lean, and the hanger helps you to achieve that, as you're hitting the ball, there is also an element of rolling or turning of the forearms, okay? There is some rolling. The other great thing about this training aid is that if you overdo the rolling, if you actually try to wrap this thing around and you overdo it, now it's touching my trail forearm. That's too much. That's too much throw, too much release. So one more time, when you're hitting the ball, yes, the hanger stays on the forearm, but you also need to have some rotation or rotation of the forearms, this pronation, supination motion here with my lead forearm, to get some of the squaring of the club face to happen and to help you get some speed into the ball. So the final part of the video then is going to talk about the follow through and what does that look like. I mean, for so many of you that need to improve your ball striking, you're going to need to feel like you keep your hands just ahead, punching these balls. We've done lots of videos on that. Hit hard, stop quick is a phenomenal video and drill for the vast majority of you to be working on. Once you do hit hard, stop quick to a point where a lot of you comment on the video that it works for the wedges and the 9-irons, but as you get into the longer clubs, you start to struggle with the height. This final piece of the follow through and understanding how the wrists work in this part of the swing will help you to start hitting the ball higher. And I'm going to give you another one of my favorite drills that I use all the time that will help you to get this right. So to complete this, I'm going to move the camera around to the front side, give you guys a look at how this wrists and this discussion moves into the follow through. First thing just to say, adding on from what I said at impact, don't just keep holding the handle forward as long as you can as you come through. Yes, the hanger's touching the lead forearm, but the club face is pointing up to the sky, okay? Not very functional at all. Open club face and an extremely slow way to swing if you just keep pulling on this grip forever. That's not correct. What we're looking for is a mixture of, yes, keeping the hanger on the lead forearm, and as we move into the impact, there's some throw of the club head which comes about via a releasing of the wrist. So the lead wrist is moving somewhat into extension, the trail wrist is flattening, and the lead forearm here is rolling or supinating, to give it its correct terminology. It's twisting in this fashion. So again, keep the hanger on the lead forearm at all times, and when the club's parallel to the ground here in the follow through, you notice how the leading edge of it, the club here, is more or less vertical. That would be a good place for you guys to start. But there is no one size fits all. This is not an absolute set in stone piece. So many factors influence what's going on here. Your grip, the original way that you hold the club will make a difference. The way that you set your club up at address will make a difference as to where you'd want to be here. The rates at which you turn your body and slow your segments down matters. All of these pieces are coming together to complete the entire ecosystem of the swing. So these are guidelines that you should look for. If you were a slicer, again, someone who hits the ball for a right-handed golfer too far to the right, I would definitely encourage you to be feeling a bit more of this turn down or this twist, okay? Keeping the handle higher for longer through the ball, keeping the hands up and getting a sense of the twist of that club face happens earlier or sooner for you. If you're someone who hooks the ball, this would be me. My feel through the ball is, yes, keep the hanger on the forearm, but rather than keep turning this forearm around so much, I work much more on the feeling of rehinging or cocking my wrists back up towards me, towards my face effectively, or towards the sky. And this act of recocking or hinging back up helps to keep the club face a little bit more open. So there's different feels for different players based on what you need. The final drill I'm going to share with you is one that I enjoy giving to players who are moderate speed players, slow swing speed players who struggle to get the energy out of the club and out of the body, if you like, and into the club and into the ball to create enough speed to be able to hit those longer, higher shots. So final drill I'm going to share with you to wrap this video up. It's going to be for those of you who are looking to get more club head speed at the bottom here without messing up and ruining your club face alignments. So let's wrap this up with this drill. The drill I'm speaking about is an addition to my favorite drill. You already know what this is if you've watched the channel for long enough. It's hit hard, stop quick. I must have at least three videos on this on my channel, and it's the one that I go to more than any other on a daily basis here in the Bay at GOLFTEC. The extension to this drill is to take your regular setup and pull your trail foot back. So as a guideline, I'm going to say that you pull your trail foot, the toes of your trail foot, more or less back to the same line as your heel of your front foot, okay? That's going to close off my stance. And the reason this drill works so well is by having my foot pulled back as I'm swinging towards the ball, it reduces the speed at which I can open or turn my hips. And what that's doing is improving the sequence of all of the segments in the downswing. As my hips slow down, so my lower body fires first, that gets slowed down, my upper body moves next and is slowing down second, then the arms can start to come off of the upper body, and as that slows down and reach impact, the club can finally get thrown out with the extra club head speed coming from that area right there, the release of the club, rather than what so many people are doing is making the mistake of turning all of the segments at the same time. They're just trying to turn their hips more open, shoulders more open, but everything's moving at the same rate and the same speed. There's no transfer of power. So hit hard, stop quick, with the right foot pulled back, also referred to as the bowler drill. So it's a little bit like bowling, 10-pin bowling, you've got this foot pulled back. So bowler drill or bowler stance, hit hard, stop quick, keep the hanger on my lead forearm throughout the swing. Pretty nice shot, decent strike. Slight push to the right, not too bad. Purpose of this really is that for those of you, as I've said, who are looking to get a bit more height and a bit more speed, as you hit hard and stop quick, because this is pulled back, you're going to get more of this club head speed into the ball. Let's hit one more. Pull the foot back, keep the hanger on the lead forearm, hit as hard as I can, stop as quick as I can. That one was even better. Really, really nice strike. I mean, if you haven't tried that hit hard, stop quick drill, you must. I'll put the link to the other hit hard, stop fast drills down in the description box below. You must check those out if you haven't seen those videos yet. That one's good distance, gone around 150, 160 yards. For me, that really helps me to get some sense of squaring the face as well. So I think it's also a particularly useful drill if you're someone who struggles with club face control. Give that a try. Hit hard, stop quick, trail foot pulled back, hanger on your lead forearm throughout the time and space of the swing, stopping as quickly as you can and getting a little bit of this club head throw. I think that will help you not only hit the ball more solid, but also increase your club speed, your distance, and the height of your shots. So there you have it. That's my complete guide to the wrists, at least in as long as this video will allow me to do. It is a complex subject, but like anything within golf, if you've got good feedback, you can make good improvements. I believe this training aid ticks many boxes, and as you know from previous training aid videos, I'm only recommending training aids that I use in my everyday teaching, and I've seen significant improvements from students using the hanger from Watson Golf. If you want to get your hands on one of these, use the code gridlife when you go to the website. I'll put the link in the description below. Use the code gridlife, you're going to get yourself 15% off. And if you'd like to win one of these, or at least be in with a chance of winning one of these, I'm going to do a giveaway when this video reaches 1,000 likes. So make sure you like this video, you leave a comment down below, and you're subscribed to the channel for your chance to win one of these training aids. Guys, that's it for this video, and indeed for this year. Thank you for all your support throughout 2021. I've really enjoyed making the videos, reading your feedback and your comments. The community continues to grow, and I'm looking forward to doing more with it in 2022. But for now, I'm going to check out, I'm going to go and spend some time with the family, I'm going to get on an aeroplane for the first time in 2 years, and look forward to seeing you all again on the other side. Have a great holiday wherever you're spending it. Enjoy time with your family. Hopefully you get to play some golf. And if you've been good, you might even get a nice gift from Santa. See you in 2022. Take care.